Hey everybody, welcome to a timely topic on Facebook Live and to be later cast a very special episode of the Remarkable Leadership Podcast. From my office here in Remarkable House, it's a calm, lovely evening in my office. But out in the world, it's not so calm. There's panic everywhere. There's people thinking they need more toilet paper. There is all sorts of things going on. And I don't know how you feel when you hear the words coronavirus. And I don't know what you're experiencing in the world around you, but here's what I know. Regardless of where you are in the world and how you're feeling about it, the reality is that when we deal with anything from a place of panic, we are not very successful. Panic doesn't help us succeed. So I'm here tonight to talk about what leaders can be doing to deal with and thinking about and preparing for the issues related to the coronavirus. Now, I just said the key word, because the way that we overcome panic in any area of our lives first is to take a deep breath and then do some preparation, do some planning, do something to get us thinking about moving forward, about getting out of where we're stuck and thinking about what we might do differently in the future. Now, I know there's a lot of information out in the world about this, and it may be confusing, and you may not really know where you are. I think as leaders, we must remain aware. We must be learning more. We must be sort of really clear about what's actually happening. We must remember that the news is trying to report what's new, not necessarily to give us the context and big picture we need to succeed. And it's our job as leaders to help our teams remain calm and know that the calm comes not from changing the story, but from creating a plan and doing some preparation. So what I've got for you tonight, I've got some questions I've already received. So if you're with me live and you have questions, please type them in. If you're listening later, or if you're listening on the podcast, you can send me questions to info@kevineikenberry.com, and we'll do what we can to answer them one way or another Facebook Live, on our blog somewhere, and we will let you know that we're answering those questions. But I've got a couple of questions that have already come into me, and if others come in as we go, I'll be happy to take them. But before we get to questions, I want to give you a construct and give you something to think about. Again, my first idea for you tonight is let's overcome panic with preparation and planning. Okay. And the second thing that I want to say is that I want to give you a rubric, I suppose, a way to think about that planning. And I know that if you're with me tonight, you're in one of three places. You're in the place of, we know we're going to make some change. We know we're going to change something for our folks. And that probably involves having people work remotely. Or we don't know what we're going to do, but we probably ought to get started in our planning. Or the third group that you might be in is we already sent everybody home. We've already made some changes, or we've sent some people home already. It's like one of our clients we got an email from today that said they were planning to move about half of their staff to remote work, working from home by the middle of the year. But instead, they're deciding to do everybody in 12 hours. If you had to do that in 12 hours, would you be ready? If you were going to do it in 12 hours, what would you need to be thinking about that you might not always already be thinking about? Or if you did it 12 hours ago, what are the things that you might still be able to mediate or remediate to make things better? So I've got several things to help you think about in planning and preparation wherever you are on that spectrum. And I think all of them are valuable. And if you're wondering why me to talk about this, if you don't know, I'm leading a remote team and have led a remote team for many years. Some of my remote team members are watching right now, and they're in different locations. I've got people in 3 time zones. I've got someone working from and living in their RV because that's what they chose to do, as well as people in 3 time zones. We never know where Angie's going to be, but right now she's 3 time zones away from me. And I've also had the chance to think a lot about this, not only because as a practitioner and the leader of a remote team, but as the co-author of this book, The Long Distance Leader. If you didn't know that, now you do. The Long Distance Leader Rules for Remarkable Remote Leadership. So bringing all of that together, I wanted to give you some things to think about if you're in that planning mode, if you're in the movement mode, or if you've already done it. We're going to talk about it right now. First thing is, and the one thing that probably everyone is thinking about is, okay, what do we have to do technology-wise? Do people have laptops that will work? Do they have the tools that they need? Do we have the software on their machines? I mean, if people always work in the office, maybe you don't have the the tools, the software tools on their machines. You got to make sure that that's loaded. You got to make sure that people can get in through the firewall. Make sure they know how to get in through the firewall and all those things. Make sure they get a good web connection at home and all those things. And that's the first thing everyone thinks about. And that does have to happen. There's no question about that. But I want to give you one more, and that is you need one of these. You need to have everyone to have they need to have a webcam, right? There you go. You've got to have a webcam for people because it's going to really help in lots of ways. I'm seeing questions coming in, so we're going to talk about those when I put my glasses on and can see them later. So 5 areas that I think we need to talk about, and technology is just one of them. Are you technologically ready? Are people ready from that perspective? Okay. The second area is, are we getting our individual people ready? Do we have our team members ready to be successful working from home? It seems like just a simple thing. Let's just go work from home. Hey, I don't have a commute anymore. Life is good. But we need to make sure that people know how to do all of the things we just talked about with their technology. We probably need to give them some clues and some help about how to set up a workspace at home, how to set some parameters with their families if they don't live alone, in terms of how you're going to put all this together, make it all work. And it's changing people's lives. So we want to help them be prepared for that, talk through that. And if you've got people in your organization that have already been working from home, make them available to those that are doing it new and fresh so that they can be mentors to those who are going to be doing it. So there's just a couple of things around individual preparation. I could say a lot more about this. I could say a lot more about all of these things, but I just want to give you a little bit of a hint in all of them. The first one, again, is get the technology ready, get the people ready. The third thing is get the team ready. Prepare the team for this. How are we going to communicate? What tools are we going to use? When are people going to be working? What's the expectation about response time? And is it different when people were down the hall? Do people have the ability to be away from their computer? Do they feel like it's okay? If people are they going to be judged if they are? Helping people think this through is going to be very useful, and giving people some context and allowing the team to talk about it. Now, if they've already gone home, I would make first order of business to get people together on your web platform and let them talk about what's working, what's not, how they can work better together. Start to level set for the team. And I'd encourage you to do that with every team that you have doing this working from home thing. Okay. Next thing we've got to do is give people the tool training that they need. It's one thing to have been a participant in a meeting using WebEx, right? Or GoToMeeting or Adobe Connect or whatever. It's one thing to have been in a meeting. But if everyone's working from home, chances are more people are going to be asked to lead a meeting. They're going to be doing this more often. And so the real challenge here is to give people comfort with the tools that they're going to be using. Help them get ready to be successful with them. Provide them with some training, offer them some online training, give them someone that they can turn to when they're getting ready to do it. And by all means, if you're a leader, make sure you're using the tools well so that you're setting a good example. And so if you don't know them, time for you to spend a little time as well. So we've talked about tech readiness and tool training. We've talked about getting the individuals ready and the team ready. And there's one more big area, and that's new expectations, because the world is now different. And so we have to set new expectations as leaders with our teams about when and how we're going to interact. What's that going to look like? What's the frequency that we're going to interact? How are other things going to happen? How are we going to communicate about changes and all of those things? We need to be clear as leaders about what we need from our teams and share that with them and make sure it's clear and get the same back from them. So we need to set new, clearer, mutually understood expectations that run both directions to help our teams be more successful, because it's not just as simple as carrying our laptops home, firing it up, and getting started. Now, if you've already started, some work is getting done, and maybe in spite of themselves, and people may be working harder and more hours and time just to get it done, but some work's getting done, and that's good. What we're talking about is helping the work really be successful and helping people not be so stressed that they can't have great success. And that's worth us thinking about. So I've had a couple of questions that were sent to me ahead of time in anticipation of this event. So I want to answer those first, and if others come in, we'll talk about those as well. So here's the first question that I received. And they said, Kevin, if you could do just one thing, if we've already sent people home, we can only do one thing, what would be the one thing? Well, the one thing is I would get people on the phone and talk about clear expectations. If you've already sent people home, get people talking about how are we really going to make this work? Now that we're home, now that we're all working remotely, what are we going to do? That's what I would do. Now, if you haven't sent people home yet, the first thing I would do is talk about the expectations before you go. So again, my first thing is always going to be about clear expectations. If we've already gone, we have some experience, we have some context, and we can make that work. If we haven't gone yet, it's going to be a little bit more hypothetical, but it's still super important to do. The second question that I've received is one about software. Kevin, which software tools should we use? Do you have a recommendation of which web platform we should use? Because if you haven't done any of this, then you've got that hurdle to cross. Here's what I would say. There are lots of great tools. And I'm not here to say, well, you should use WebEx or you should use this tool or you should use that tool. I will say this, however, that you're going to have people with a bunch of tools. They likely have their email, of course. They likely have their phone, hopefully. They likely have some web platform or more than one. And they probably have some collaboration tools like web file sharing and stuff. And you also probably have instant messaging. Here's the thing. You have all these tools. Your first goal isn't to pick the best tool, because you probably have the tools you need. Our job is to help everyone understand when we're going to use which ones. So when are we going to use email versus when are we going to use instant message? And what is the response time that we're expecting from people using different tools? And what kind of protocol or what kind of expectations do we have about that? So I would worry less about which tool. If you really want to have a conversation because you got nothing, we could have that conversation one-on-one offline. But I would say the bigger issue isn't which tool to pick, but which tool to pick among the ones you've already got to use for a specific or a given situation. Okay, those are the questions I've had so far, and I'm looking to see if I have any more. Got a couple of comments here, but I don't think they're really questions. So we are going to go on from there. I want to leave you with a couple of thoughts before I go, and that is that if you're struggling with this, and this was sort of whetting your appetite, and you say, man, this was good, Kevin, but we really need to talk to someone, not just listen to someone talk about this. I have made, we've cleared the calendar of one of the members of my team, and that's Wayne Termel, the co-author with me on this book. There he is, Wayne, right there. I've cleared his calendar to be available to help people think about this. So we've been working as the co-founders of the Remote Leadership Institute, remoteleadershipinstitute.com. We've been thinking about this and working with organizations around remote work and remote leadership work for a long time. And so we're making him available, and you can get some of his time to get his advice and counsel, for him to listen to your plan and give you some thoughts, or just to have someone to bounce some ideas off of. Or if you've already made the shift and you're finding some challenges, Wayne can be available for a consult. And it's very simple. It's not going to cost you anything. It's our way to help all of us get out of panic and into preparation and planning. And it's very simple. The way to do that, to get on Wayne's calendar, is go to remoteleadershipinstitute.com/calendar. And I'll put that in the Facebook here, so it'll be there for anyone watching later. But it's remoteleadershipinstitute.com/calendar. It'll take you right to a place that you can get on Wayne's calendar, get some of his time to work through, talk through, share, ask anything of him. It's our way to bring some of our knowledge and expertise to the table to help you be more successful, help your organization be more successful, to reduce the panic and get us in preparation mode, so that even if we do need to make some adjustments, and even if we do decide that we need to have more people work from home, or not have people travel in and continue to work at distance and have meetings that way rather than having people get on airplanes, whatever that might look like, we can help you think that through. We can help you think through these 5 components and more, and we'd be happy to do that. Again, remoteleadershipinstitute.com/calendar. So thank you for joining me here on Facebook Live. And if you were listening or watching on the Remarkable Leadership Podcast, thank you for that. We'll be back in both locations soon, sooner than you might imagine, for another episode of Facebook Live and another episode of the Remarkable Leadership Podcast. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Let us know how we can help. Remember, preparation overcomes panic. Thanks, everybody.